Ah, the good old smartphone. But this thing just doesn't keep up anymore. So what do I do? Replace the battery, upgrade to a new phone altogether, or maybe I've been trapped in something called
planned obsolescence.
Planned obsolescence.
Planned obsolescence.
Planned obsolescence.
Yep, I'm talking about a sneaky tactic big companies use to make us buy things way sooner than we should. And yes, Apple, I'm looking at you. Hey everyone, Amber from Sustainable Jungle, where we share sustainability tips, tricks, hacks, products, brands, and stories to better our planet. But today I'm talking about something that is certainly not bettering our planet in any conceivable way. Planned obsolescence. Now, if you're wondering why your old iPhone feels a little bit slower every time a new model comes out, it's not just in your head. Apple has been accused more than once of pushing people into buying new devices by making the old ones worse. Battery throttling in older models, check. Software updates that mysteriously make your phone slower, double check. In other words, planned obsolescence is when companies deliberately make products with a limited lifespan. Sometimes it's in the form of tech that ages poorly or parts that are just impossible to fix, forcing you to buy a new one, and another one, and another one, and so on and so forth. I don't know about you, but when I buy a phone that costs upwards of $1,000 these days, I want it to last until, well, at least until I forget where I put it. No, I'm kidding. I mean, not about forgetting where I put it, because I do that at least 3 times a day, but I do always find it again. But first, before we dig deeper into this greed-driven tech trend, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you can stay in the loop on all of our latest videos. So, what is planned obsolescence? Planned obsolescence refers to the deliberate design of products with a limited lifespan, forcing consumers to replace items more frequently than necessary. This strategy boosts corporate profits, but at the cost of economic fairness and environmental sustainability. It's particularly prevalent in the tech industry, as we've been talking about, where companies employ tactics such as software updates that slow older devices or design devices with inaccessible repairs, and of course, making spare parts unavailable. To demonstrate, I'll use my own experiences. So up until about a year ago, I was still rocking an iPhone 8, which I had stopped updating a couple years before that because all the updates were absolutely tanking my phone performance. The hardware was no longer fit to run the operating system, but when I stopped updating, guess what happened? My phone also became pretty useless because before too much longer, apps stopped functioning on my phone because they required the latest operating system. And now I'm not like an app-obsessed phone user. I really keep it pretty basic and functional, and I hate hardware bloat on my devices, but there are some apps that I just need for my daily life and my job, and over the course of 2 years, I slowly watched as apps I did actually use and need, like my banking apps, suddenly no longer worked on my phone, to the point that it really started to impede my workflow. This is planned obsolescence. Forcing software updates by making functionality rely on them while simultaneously using those software updates to make the devices non-functional in a different way? Yep, sounds like it. And the waste wheel just keeps on turning. Ooh, wait, I have a song for this. Being serious again, why? Why do companies do this? Well, quite simply because there's more money in it for them. Making things repairable and long-lasting doesn't make company money in the long run. Why would they do that when they can all but force you to spend $1,000 every few years? Tech giants like Apple and Samsung have long been accused of using planned obsolescence to drive sales. Apple, for example, admitted in 2017 to intentionally slowing down older iPhones via software updates, a practice that they claimed was to preserve battery life, but which critics argued coerced users into buying newer models, and they were subsequently fined 25 million euros for it. Now, this fine in particular was imposed by France's competition and fraud watchdog, the GGCCRF. I don't know what that stands for off the top of my head, but they basically said that consumers, quote, were not informed that installing iOS updates 10.2.1 and 11.2 could slow down their devices, end quote. And they were essentially only brought to charges because they committed the crime of deceptive commercial practice by omission. And since then, other lawsuits have followed suit. In fact, more than 60 separate US lawsuits were ordered to be consolidated into a single suit in the Northern District of California against Apple for this, which is still ongoing. And though this class action case started in 2017, in the wake of their admission, they only just started making payments toward the $500 million owed to those who joined the class action lawsuit this year. Justin Gutman brought another class action to suit in June of 2022, representing an estimated 25 million UK iPhone users. Plus, Apple is facing inquiries in other countries, including China, Italy, South Korea, France, Brazil, and more. And yet, despite this, the practice continues. Since Apple confirmed that they were doing this in 2017, it's implemented it on several more iPhones, including all iterations of the iPhones 6, 7, 8, SE, X, XS, and XR. Except now they technically have the disclosure in the fine print of their agreement, so problem solved, right? Wrong. Because while not disclosing that to consumers was obviously extremely unethical, it is still not the root of the issue. And don't think I'm just exclusively picking on Apple here. They're just the lowest hanging fruit. Get it? Considering that they're one of the biggest tech giants in the world. But they are far from the only tech company engaging in this practice. Samsung, too, has been caught red-handed using the exact same methods. And as a result, Apple and Samsung are both currently being fined 10 million euros and 5 million euros, respectively, in Italy for the planned obsolescence of their smartphones. And I think the most disrespectful part of this to consumers, the fact that, at least in Apple cases, that they had the audacity to claim that it is for our benefit to prolong the life of the devices, under the reasoning that as batteries age, their performance decreases, and so the slowdown lengthens the phone's lifespan. Except that they're being slowed to a point of being almost unusable. So if that's not the admission equivalent of a Mel Gibson apology, I really don't know what is. However, in all fairness, Apple has taken some positive action in response to all this. First, in direct response to this admission, they reduced the price of battery replacements to $29 for iPhone 6s and newer through the end of 2018. Of course, prices have now gone back up to anywhere from $89 to $119 depending on your model, but still it's better than $1,000 for a new phone, I guess, so I do encourage you to extend the life of your devices with new batteries first. They've also started providing more details on their website regarding battery life and best practices to keep phones running a bit better once batteries begin to age. And then once they released the iOS 11.3 update software, it contained a new feature that enabled users to track their iPhone's battery health and performance status. In 2022, they also launched a self-service repair program available for iPhones 12 and up, which basically lets you order parts either to purchase or rent, which I do think is really cool, especially if you just need the tools to do something. And you can also download the manuals to repair their devices. Samsung also has a new self-repair program in addition to their brand and mobile repair services. So these self-repair programs are still pretty new and frankly not very well promoted right now. So it's still very up in the air as to whether this is more of a performative effort on their part or something that will actually make real change. I think for it to be the latter, they both A, need to stop updating the software on their devices all the time. I mean, patches and bug fixes are one thing, but you don't need to completely redesign the software like every year. And B, really promote and educate customers about these self-repair programs and options. Okay, so that is a broad picture of the current state of planned obsolescence, and this is why it's bad. Well, economically, planned obsolescence places an undue burden on consumers, forcing them to repeatedly invest in replacements instead of maintaining durable goods. It also stifles innovation by focusing corporate priorities on short-term sales rather than long-lasting, high-quality products, which is frankly what we really need to get over those sustainability hurdles in the tech sector. Because beyond being just downright annoying, it's completely unsustainable environmentally speaking. Planned obsolescence fuels unsustainable consumption. When companies make us replace tech sooner, we're creating a cycle of waste. More phones, more laptops, more chargers are going to end up in the landfill, where they're basically going to continue leaching toxic forever chemicals into the soil and water. And these include several of the WHO's 10 chemicals of public health concerns, including dioxins, lead, and mercury. But no wonder e-waste is one of the fastest growing waste streams globally, and it's only projected to keep rising from 62 million metric tons in 2022 to 82 million by 2030 if we keep on the path we are currently on. Based on the tracking of e-waste we've done in recent years and growth rates, estimates suggest that there is 347.18 million metric tons of e-waste currently on this planet. And keep in mind that electronics are also resource intensive to produce, relying on rare earth metals, which of course we have a finite amount of, and energy intensive manufacturing processes. And many of the materials in them are fully recyclable. Yet electronics currently have an absolutely dismal recycling rate. Of 2022's 62 billion kilograms of electronic waste, only about 22.3% of it was formally recorded as recycled. Now, obviously, undocumented cases might mean that the actual numbers are a little bit higher, but realistically, not high enough. So, all of this e-waste is also a tremendous waste of just resources. If they do get recycled, they'll often get shipped into developing nations with really lax recycling regulations that can create harmful conditions for those that work with these hazardous materials. Children specifically are some of the most at risk, and this report by the WHO summarized the correlation between e-waste and child health problems, especially in developing countries where children are often left to pick through the e-waste for recyclable materials. All in all, this cycle exacerbates environmental degradation, accelerates climate change, and perpetuates global inequality. Planned obsolescence represents a critical juncture in the intersection of technology, consumer rights, and environmental sustainability. What are we doing about it? Because bringing a multi-billion-dollar company like Apple or Samsung to court and making them pay out what is, quite frankly, a pittance of their earnings is alone not what we need to enact real change. We need to hold companies accountable for their products right from the very start. Again, France has taken a leading role in holding companies accountable for their planned obsolescence. In addition to their Apple lawsuit, French laws now also require tech companies to display repairability scores for their electronic products, helping consumers understand how easily a device can be repaired. So under this law, manufacturers must provide a score ranging from 1 to 10 that rates how repairable that product is, and this includes everything from smartphones, laptops, washing machines, you name it. And this is all designed to help consumers make more informed decisions when they're buying, while also encouraging manufacturers to improve repairability. France is now considering expanding this system to include a durability index to evaluate the expected lifespan of products as well. And globally, this right to repair movement is really gaining momentum. It's an initiative that advocates for laws requiring companies to provide repair manuals, diagnostic tools, and spare parts to consumers and independent repair shops. In the United States, New York became the first state to pass a comprehensive right to repair law for electronics in 2022, which requires companies to provide parts, tools, and documentations to help these repair shops and consumers fix products without the actual company being directly involved. California followed suit in 2023 with similar laws that applies to electronic devices sold after July of 2024. And at the federal level, the Federal Trade Commission has been actively investigating anti-competitive repair restrictions. You can go onto repair.org to actually see a map of the US and what legislation or action is happening all across it by state. The European Union has also embraced repair-friendly policies. In 2021, the EU passed laws requiring certain appliances such as refrigerators, washing machines, and televisions to be repairable for up to 10 years after purchase. Manufacturers must also make spare parts available to professional repairers and ensure that repairs can be carried out using ordinary tools without damaging the product. The EU is further discussing extending these regulations to cover smartphones, laptops, and more personal consumer devices, which would address the rapid obsolescence that's really common in this particular type of electronic especially. In Australia, the government has launched inquiries into repair monopolies and is considering measures to ensure fair access to repair resources. Canada is also evaluating its repair landscape, with several provinces introducing bills that echo right to repair principles. And while these efforts are no doubt promising, the battle is far from over. Resistance from powerful, near monopolistic tech corporations remain a significant obstacle, and achieving comprehensive right to repair legislation globally will require continued advocacy and collective action from consumers, repair professionals, governments, and corporations alike. So, all in all, much remains to be done. The right to repair movement ultimately needs to be more than just a legal fight. It has to involve a shift in the very foundation foundation of how we see the tech consumption cycle, and moreover, the lifespan of everything that we buy. It needs to override this overarching acceptance of product disposability in our modern culture. Companies obviously must play a major role in this by actually designing products that are modular, repairable, and built to last, but we consumers have a role too, and that's basically to encourage them to get there. We can do so by supporting repair-friendly companies and investing in durable products. This is us dollar voting and telling companies that that is what we want. Second, and this is probably the most important thing that we can do, is to stop supporting the system by falling into the latest and greatest trap. So, no more running out to trade in your current working iPhone as soon as the newest one launches. Now, if there is an actual functional issue motivating your desire to upgrade, ask yourself if it can be repaired easily and affordably instead first. Is your iPhone slowing down? Maybe try clearing its app caches or upgrading the battery before just blindly buying a new one. And hey, if you're choosing a new device, check out that repairability score if it's available to you. And lastly, let's all speak up. Ask companies to make products that last longer. If enough of us demand it and don't give them our money if they don't give it to us, eventually they'll have to listen. After all, we don't just buy tech, we are investing in it. And it's only fair that our investments don't end up in a landfill after just a few years. So, TLDR, planned obsolescence is more than just a frustrating consumer experience. It is an unsustainable practice that harms both our wallets and the planet. So by staying informed, supporting right to repair laws, and making conscious purchasing decisions, we can push back against these wasteful practices and demand better from the companies that we support. What do you think about planned obsolescence? I'm assuming no one out there is like, heck yeah, I love it. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Maybe you've experienced it firsthand. Maybe you have some tips for avoiding it. I'd love to hear your thoughts, whatever they are. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with anyone who could use a little extra inspiration to fight the throwaway culture. Once again, this is Sustainable Jungle. I'm Amber, wishing you all a waste-free rest of your day.